Amber Abels, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Here we are, all in with Dr. Betts. Kind of a crazy little name for a little podcast, don't you think? But
Once you explained it, it made a lot more sense.
that's the trouble. You have to explain it. It's supposed to be self-evident, and everyone's like, "All in." What does that even mean?
I'm all in.
Yeah, I'm all in. See, exactly, all in. There's one lady I explained it to. She's actually helping me with the podcast. She works over at the Academic Success Center, and I said, "Yeah, my podcast is called All In." She's like, "All in." I go, "Well, my last name is Bett." She goes, "Oh, that makes a lot of sense. It's funny." I'm like, "Well, explain it though. It's not as funny." So, where are you from, Amber?
Originally from Durham, North Carolina. Was born up there. We moved to Florida for my dad's job. He got a job at Florida Power.
Oh, okay.
So we moved down here when I was in first grade.
Okay.
So I've been here long enough to be a Floridian, but I wasn't born here.
So what city did you move to?
We moved to Clearwater.
Oh, okay.
So I grew up on the West Coast.
Right.
And I lived my whole life in Clearwater until I went off to college.
Where'd you go to college?
I did my undergraduate degree at FSU, so up in Tallahassee. I majored in biology and math.
Okay.
Actually got a math degree on accident.
On accident?
On accident.
Well, we have to hear more about that.
Yeah, so I was doing a biology major with a math minor, which was just through Calculus 3.
Okay.
And then I took Calc 3 and thought it was super fun, so I just took more math, and by the end of it, I had a whole another major.
You thought Calc 3 was fun? Yeah. You just can't drop that bomb on my audience and not explain it.
I just liked math. It was just math in 3D, and I was like, cool. So the next class I took was proofwriting, and I thought that was extremely challenging and interesting. And so I would just take math classes.
Wow, very good.
Yeah, I had some extra credits brought in from like doing AP and enrollment stuff.
Right.
And so I just had a little extra time. So
wow, that's some spare time. So do a little calculus on the side because it's so easy.
Well, it was really funny. I went to my vector calculus class office hours once because I just didn't get something. We were talking. And he was like, "You're a biology major? What are you doing in my class?"
Very weird. Yeah. Wow.
But
Do you ever use calculus in your biology?
Yeah, actually, my master's degree, I actually needed to use calculus to figure out. I did a lot of mathematical modeling for fish.
Wow.
And so I ended up using
cool.
all of the math and the physics to get my master's.
See, that's what we tell students. Just because you don't understand why you're learning it now, doesn't mean you won't need it later.
Yeah, exactly. So I was super happy that I had like a firm grasp on it because I was able to like make a project around having the engineering approach.
Sure. So this was at Florida State?
No, this was my I got the degrees at Florida State was my undergrad, and then once I graduated there, I went down to University of South Florida, and so I did my master's in.
Where's the University of South Florida?
It's Tampa.
Tampa, okay.
Yeah. So it's kind of like going on.
I guess, yeah. Clearwater's not far from there. Okay, so hold on now. So you started out in North Carolina.
Yep.
You ended up in Clearwater.
Yep.
And then you moved on to Tallahassee.
Yep.
And then back to Tampa.
Back to Tampa.
So you spent most of all of your life essentially has been in Florida.
Basically.
On the West Coast.
Yeah, the parts I can remember because before moving to Florida, it's like you're 3, 4, you don't really remember anything from them. So everything I remember is basically Florida.
Okay.
And after I had my master's degree, I moved back to Tallahassee. Yeah, and was teaching up there at Tallahassee Community College.
So you got a master's degree from South Florida.
Yep, in integrative biology. So my focus was in physiology and morphology. So I studied king mackerel.
What's that?
Yeah, it's a big fish.
Let's get a photograph of one.
Oh, I should have sent you my king mackerel photo.
Let's get a photograph. Let's see what that looks like. Let's pull up the computer here. There we go. Oh, I'm sorry. That's my fault. That's my fault. Oh. There we go.
Let's see if I can spell things right.
Wow.
All right. So images. Those guys.
Holy smokes.
Yeah.
That's a big fish.
Those are some very big ones. Not all of the ones we thought were that big.
Wow, look at that size of that thing.
Yeah. But that was what I studied for my math. That's a really big one. They call those smokers.
Why do they call them smokers?
So they pull the line. So you go fishing for king mackerel, you trawl. So you like put a line out behind the boat, and then the boat goes along really slow. And so the king mackerel will grab the line and run away from the boat. and they swim so fast that the friction on the line causes it to smoke.
Wow. Yeah. That's incredible.
It's crazy.
That's the first fish I caught in Florida was a kingmaker. Not anything like that.
No, they're like.
Mine was like probably that maybe 3 feet.
That's a good king mackerel.
Every time I tell the story, they think it's a little longer, of course.
Yeah.
But I used to have a photograph. How there's an iPhone. I deleted my phone because I got a new one, and I have to save my pictures because I'm a man and I don't save pictures. But it was huge. I remember the thing really fought me. Like I'd never experienced.
They're really
that.
difficult to pull out.
Yeah, I wanted to give up because it was so hard. Like my arms were tired, my shoulders.
Whenever I would catch one, I always had to wear the little like chest strap. It's got the pole.
Oh, you're going for the real big ones.
Yeah.
We weren't going into that.
Well, also I was a weak link, but yeah. So yeah, I did my master's at USF studying those guys, and I used engineering to look at the anatomy of the jaw and the biting musculature. Mm-hmm. So I looked at all of their jaw muscles, and then we used a theoretical mathematical model to figure out their biting forces.
Wow.
Yeah, and then we actually went out fishing, and we would catch them and put a bite force meter in between their teeth, mm-hmm. and then we would stimulate the jaws to bite down with electrical shock after they were out, and kind of measure that against our math model to see if they were actually accurate. Mm-hmm. And then the other thing we did was I had a special fishing reel that had a line counter, and I would use a little GoPro and measure how fast the line was going out. So I was able to integrate that to get the derivative, the acceleration to see what kind of forces they were putting out while they were swimming.
That must be a lot. They're a very strong fish.
Yeah, so their biting force, like their actual chomping force, was pretty pitiful. So we compared it to things like bull sharks and alligators, and per pound bite force, they're not biting very hard, but they're striking and the sharp teeth. So I measured the pressure that they exert with their teeth as well, and that's where their deadly comes from.
It's because the force is all in the
yeah, because it's all in that tiny, sharp, narrow little scissor tooth.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I have to ask because I like a good fish dinner. When you caught these mackerel, did you release them or did you eat them?
No, we had to keep them because I had to keep the heads to do the model on the heads compared to the ones that we measured.
Right.
And so we kept them. There were a couple that we did eat.
Sure.
And they were delicious.
Absolutely, they're very, very tasty fish. You can't find them, I don't think, unless you fish them. You have to fish them yourself.
Yeah, you have to go out and trawl these. They're not really like going to come into the coast. You have to actually get out in a boat to go get them.
Yeah, we caught them. We weren't trawling. We were anchored, but we were dropping fish this big off the side of the boat. When I was a boy, a fish that size is what you were trying to catch.
Right.
These are the bait. I'm like, what are we going after, a whale? I mean, this is huge. And then.
Yeah, well, they run through around the Gulf. So there's a population in the Gulf, and then there's one down along they call it the Atlantic population. And so they kind of come up into the Gulf in the winter, and then they go back out into the Atlantic in the summer. And so in November and April, you can kind of catch them moving in the Tampa area.
So when a fish migrates, are they migrating from temperature? Or are they migrating with food? Or how do they know when to migrate?
A lot of it's temperature or other environmental cues. So sometimes it's food availability. A lot of times it's chemicals in the water.
Oh, wow.
So like sea urchins know how to spawn or when to spawn because certain chemicals will be prevalent at certain times and they'll spawn at certain times.
I didn't know that. Yeah. Interesting. So what's the chemical in the water? Another plant or?
Yeah, some other part of their ecosystem or environment.
Wow. That's pretty cool. So they have a sensor, they just know it's there.
Yeah, and sometimes it's light, sometimes it's temperature, sometimes it's chemical, but yeah.
Right. That's interesting. I've always been fascinated by migrating animals because how do they, I always thought in Canada the birds fly south. Okay, so they're following temperature probably.
Potentially. I think birds use the magnetic poles of the earth as well to migrate.
Okay.
And they can use that to kind of orient the direction.
Right, they know the direction to go, but how do they know what time to go?
Right.
That's what always
I'm
fascinated
not sure.
me.
I'm not an ornithologist, but.
And neither. Actually, I did ornithology when I was younger. Actually, I was going to be a biologist, but the chemistry appealed to me more. But I was counting birds on this island off the coast of Maine, counting puffins, little puffins.
Yeah, little penguin looking ones.
Yeah, little penguin, and the bigger ones, the razor bills. This ox, they're called, I guess. And so I've always been fascinated by birds, and I always wondered at the end of the season, the puffins would always start flying more. Puffins never fly.
It could be day cycles too, right? As the seasons change, right? The amount of time the sun is up changes, and so when days get to a certain length, it might signal it's time to.
That's true.
Go migrate.
Because they'll even abandon their nest. They'll just have chicks and they'll just leave. Yeah. It's time to go.
Wow, that's harsh.
Birds are harsh. You ever spend time watching birds? They're pretty harsh.
Wow.
They're not cute little birdies. They're pretty harsh, but they're very aggressive too.
Yeah.
Birds, especially nesting birds. Nesting seagulls are very aggressive.
Yeah, there was. I did a summer internship at a Florida aquarium 1 year during undergrad.
Where's that at?
And it's in Tampa.
Okay.
And they had one pelican.
Mhm.
She would just wander around in the room while we were like cleaning up before it opened, and she was scary.
Mhm.
Like she would come over and it was like, "Don't bite me."
Yeah, birds can be scary. They're bigger than you think too.
There was one time we were spraying the plants with a hose. They don't actually have a sprinkler system,
Mhm.
and so all of the interns had to water the plants every day. And so she came too close, so I sprayed her with the hose, and then that was what she wanted. So she like opened up her wings and was like bathing in the water, and I was like,
she was.
"Oh,
Now you made a friend.
all right."
Never gonna leave you now. Now she's gonna bite you just to get you to do it.
Yeah, I was just glad I didn't get in trouble.
So how did you get that internship? That's pretty neat.
Yeah. So my interest going into biology at FSU was all marine biology,
Mhm.
and I just wanted to do as much in the area of marine biology as I could. And so that first summer, I knew I was going to go back to home and live in Clearwater, and so I was just looking for stuff around there that was, ocean or aquatic or anything.
Sure.
So I ended up applying at the Florida Aquarium. And,
Cool.
yeah, I did a lot of internships in my undergraduate.
Tell us about that.
What?
Tell us about it.
Yeah. So my second year, I went into there's a research station in Bimini, South Bimini in the Bahamas,
Mhm.
called the Bimini Biological Field Station. We just call it the Shark Lab.
Let's pull it up. Let's have a look.
I think they just updated their website and everything recently. So, see, I can't type.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's my fault. Here we go. I need two things at once.
There you go, field station right there.
You said it?
Yep, Bimini Shark Lab.
Cool.
Yeah, so hit on about, you can probably see the little kind of teeny tiny hut that we lived in.
Facility?
Yeah.
So,
Sure.
let's scroll around here.
Yeah.
What we're looking for.
So they've updated this website.
Oh,
So
there
they
you go.
have these rooms. You're sleeping 4-door room. You got
Wow.
4 bunks. You got a teeny tiny closet space.
Yes.
Your sink, yeah. And because there's not enough sink space in the bathroom. There's 2 bathrooms. I think there are 4 or 5 of these little bedrooms. So that's the inside. Like that's where we eat lunch, dinner. And so they crammed 20 to some odd people in this tiny little blue house.
This is the inside of
Yeah,
it.
this is the kitchen and the dining room. That's kind of like the main lab research room where they would do computer work or open up tabs. And we'd have our morning meetings in there every day.
Wow, 20 people.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Pretty cramped.
And so they have a couple of on-staff like biologists or like graduate students who come down there to do their research, and they are kind of running the place. And they typically have a staff that runs. There's a couple, and by staff I mean like 2 people that run the maintenance of the boats and the maintenance of everything, and then they plan dinner and they plan shopping and they cook all of the meals, and then it's undergraduates or graduate students that come to volunteer for anywhere from like a month to a year.
Oh wow!
And you live at the station and you just help whoever's the resident biologist on their project. And so we were out 9 days out of 10 doing research. Every like 10th day or so we'd get a day off, which usually involved like kayaking around the Bahamas or something. So we were. I don't think I was dry for 3 months.
That's cool. So what kind of research were you guys doing here?
The person who was there was studying, a lot of it is lemon shark, because it's a huge lemon shark nursery area. And so we were looking at...
I'm always fascinated by sharks, how they identify them. So cool.
So we were looking at baby lemon sharks, and we would do a lot of tagging and release. Yeah. I think they get lemon because they have that kind of yellowy color. But they're really one of the bigger sharks here.
When you're actually diving with them, can you actually see the lemon color?
Not really.
This has probably been enhanced.
Yeah, they look a little more like just regular gray.
Like this kind of thing, like that's
yeah.
I've
the trick to telling, though, if you pull up the picture on the far right, though, It's got a lemon. They come with a lemon, and no. But if you see the second fin, so the first fin looks big, and then the second fin looks just as big.
This one here.
Yeah, that's kind of the trick. When the second fin is pretty big, that's how you can tell it's a lemon shark.
Okay, so let's look at this one here that we're drawing.
Yeah.
So this one and this one are relatively the same size.
So the second one, in most sharks, it's a lot smaller.
Okay.
Yeah, but in that lemon shark, it's pretty close to the same size.
Okay, you can really see it there.
Yeah.
Wow, that's pretty neat.
Yeah.
So it's a lemon shark.
Yep.
Are they aggressive or pretty docile?
Most sharks really aren't that aggressive.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you mess with them, yeah, definitely.
Sure.
But
yeah, most
we
animals
spent
will.
a lot of time. They had these pens, like temporary pens, out on the beach, and most of what we worked with were juveniles, so they were 2 feet long.
Mm-hmm.
But really, you could just walk in the water and they'd swim around you. I've never been bitten by a shark in all of my years of swimming with sharks.
Oh, we're gonna come back to all your years of sharks here in a minute. Let's talk a little more about the place in the Bahamas. That's kind of oops.
Oh, no, bad.
That's a neat little thing you did.
Yeah, so I was there for about 3 months, and that's where the other picture comes in, the one with me leaning over the boat
Oh, this
with
one
the
here?
tiger shark. No, the other one. That one.
Here we're gonna put a picture of Amber up here, people. Watch this. There we go.
Yeah, that's me in the Bahamas. That is a juvenile tiger shark.
You just hang it on?
Yeah.
Just for fun.
So we caught that on a long line. So what you would do is the lines are long. They can be anywhere from several yards to several miles long.
Miles long?
Yeah.
How do you keep it from getting tangled?
You anchor it.
Oh,
So
okay.
you anchor it at one end and then drive your boat and then anchor it at the other end and they stay where they're at.
Okay.
So the line doesn't move. And so Bimini, they have permanent long lines that are out there. And so every week they go out and they check the long lines and they'll tag animals and take data on anyone that are previously tagged and then release them. And so when people catch tagged animals, or if we see the same tagged animal again, it gives them information about the movement pattern of the sharks.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they come back seasonally, like to breed, because it was a mating or a nursery ground. So the large females would come back to mate there and like have their babies and pups and then go off again.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Wow.
yeah, so they would tag these little tiger sharks. That one's a baby tiger shark. So it was likely born a couple months before this picture.
Looks quite large.
No, they get really big.
This looks really big. That's the dorsal fin, right?
Yeah, that's the dorsal fin.
So there's the head up here
That's
somewhere.
the head, yeah.
The tail's way over here.
Yep, there's the
I
tail.
would assume that's a 12 to 15-foot boat.
It's like a 13-foot boat, yeah.
So it's half the size of the boat almost.
Yeah.
So it's like
It's only like a 2-foot shark.
Oh, it looks much bigger in the photo.
Yeah, perspective there. I've got it kind of
I
forward. Yeah.
suppose.
That's like when you take those pictures of big snakes and you just hold them out.
Hold them up. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true. That's really cool. So here's a question that I've always wondered about when people fish and they catch a fish and they release the fish back into the ocean. Does the fish actually survive that most of the time?
It depends. So one of my friends in graduate school was actually doing research on sharks and like release and survival rates. Certain fish do really well when you release them.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the bigger sharks, if you release them, like tartar shark, and then there are certain sharks that are really sensitive. So some of the bony fish or the hammerhead sharks, when you would release them, they would flop or not do so well. So when you're catching sharks, when we did all the shark research, one of the data metrics that we took was release condition.
Mm-hmm.
So we would be whether it's dead or whether it's kind of swimming or whether it's like lively.
Mm-hmm.
And so we would mark down every time, how well it did. And then some of these ones where they put like actual trackers in them, they were able to, though most of those do really well. But sometimes, like, if they have a tracker, if they die, a lot of times you can see the tracker just kind of stops.
Right.
Or it gets swallowed by a completely different fish. And so then you can kind of look at the survivability. Yeah. But I would say more survive than don't.
Okay.
But
I always wondered.
Yeah.
Take a fish and it's a
it
lot
really
of stress,
just depends
right?
on the situation. It depends on how deep the fish was when you pulled it up. Because fish have an air pocket inside of them, called a swim bladder.
Whoa. That's another computer thing. Yeah, all these crazy things you can tell us. Let's talk more about that. That sounds good.
So, like, when people get grouper, or when you go fishing for grouper, like really big black grouper and stuff, those are on the bottom. They live in holes on the bottom of the water. And when you pull, go to images. Yeah. The second one there.
Sure.
Yeah. So the swim bladder is that big sac right there in the center.
Right here.
Yeah, it's just full of air, and the fish can usually regulate the air with its circulatory system, or even sometimes with like the lung. But when you take a fish that's at the bottom of the water, it's
Wait,
usually
did you say lung?
yeah, they're like lungfish that have actual. It's not like a true lung, but they can gulp air.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So like let's say a grouper, right? It lives in a hole in the bottom of the water.
Mm-hmm.
And so the gas bladder is used to being under all of that pressure of the water. And so when you pull a grouper up really fast, the air inside that bladder expands really quickly, and it can actually kill the fish because you pull it up. So when you pull up a grouper, you have to pull it up too slowly. Or a lot of times if you're pulling up a fish from really deep, you'll see a fisherman kind of spear it in the side. What they're doing is popping the bladder.
Oh.
And that actually helps the fish survive if you're trying to release it.
Oh, okay.
To pop the bladder so it doesn't explode.
Wow.
And then you can work up the fish and actually release it.
Wow, it's incredible.
Yeah.
So how deep are these grouper that you're referring to?
I mean, it's Florida, a couple 100 feet maybe.
Wow, that's kind of cool. You ever gone diving?
Yeah.
So you're an experienced diver?
Not super experienced. I got certified in scuba when I was in my senior year of high school in anticipation of being a marine biologist and needing to dive all the time.
Sure.
And then when I got to doing shark research, all of it's on a boat.
Right.
So I mostly just snorkeled. So I'm certified to dive, and I've done a little bit, but not a lot. Mostly just for fun.
Yeah, I got certified when I got here. Did the advanced open water diving, and down at 100 feet, it kind of got in my head that there's 100 feet of water between me and air. It's
that's 3 extra atmospheres of pressure.
Exactly, right? And you don't feel it when you're at the bottom, but if you go up too fast, you're in
that's a
big trouble.
lot. So if you're pulling a fish from 100 feet, right, that's
right. There's a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
Like even in a swimming pool at 10 feet.
Yeah, you've got to plug your ears.
Yeah, you can feel the pressure of the water. It's actually incredible how much pressure you get from water. So back to fish and bladder. This is really neat. All right, so let's do lungfish now. That's something that I'm kind of interested in.
So these guys live in kind of muddy. These are shallow kind of streams, and they live in like the mud. But they actually have the ability to come up and gulp air. Yeah, if you look at, they have kind of little feet. So if you look at kind of the second to the right, yeah, that one. They're showing some of their little fins, their pectoral fins. They actually use them to kind of scoot around on the sand, and they can actually use them to pull themselves up out of the water onto the shore, and they can sit there for a little bit. They can gulp a little bit of air.
Wow! And they have the ability to pass the oxygen through their blood.
Yeah,
that's incredible. I mean, I've heard of a lungfish. I just never really thought much about them. So why would they want to come out of the water? To get warm?
They just want to be friends.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
I think this is kind of a transitionary, evolutionary stage, right? Like an ancestral fish, right? So this is one of the fish that's kind of more on the end of leading towards what eventually would have become amphibians or reptiles.
Right.
And so there's this whole migration of evolution that we started in primordial soup and then evolved into organisms that used to live in the water. And so this is likely one of the kind of the branch offs of those ancestors that ended up being it's still aquatic, but it can kind of come on the land.
Right.
It's never
kind of wild, right?
Yeah, it's cool.
It's freaking crazy wild, in my opinion. All right. So we kind of left that research station you're at, so we can get back to it. So I want to see ask you. It's great podcasting. We go back through stuff. There you go. So let's go outside.
Yeah. Oh, there's the hut. So this is the whole thing.
That's where you
there's
stay?
This is the front entrance. Those 2 windows on the left there are the dining room, and then on the right there's all the bedrooms, and that was it. It was this tiny little place.
What's this?
Those are all raincoats.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Because we worked rain or shine. So we had mosquito nets and we had raincoats, and we had if the picture went a little bit further to the right, that wall is just all snorkel gear. So it's weight belts and fins, and you would just put all your snorkel gear out there. Yeah. And if you were to turn around, so like from that picture, like turn around, it would just be the dock with all the boats, and then there's a little pathway down to a shore and the beach, and it's just right there, 30 feet in front of the place.
So when you were there, they would supply the food. You just supplied the labor.
Yeah, they supplied our food. We paid to go.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was a paid internship where I paid them to let me
exactly.
do work.
Please let me come here and be among you.
Yeah.
Well, if it's that popular, they can do that.
Yeah.
All right. So vehicles. Let's see what they have for vehicles.
So they have the big research vessel right there that's called the Twin B, and then they had a bunch of those little 13 and 16 foot motor outboard boats there that we would drive around and go to our specific location, and we spend a lot of time tracking sharks.
Okay.
So they put the trackers in there that would emit specific frequency and specific patterns of sound. And so we took hydrophones and we would sit up. We would have one person driving, one person sitting up on the front with the hydrophone, and you're just listening in the water, trying to hear the sharks in the island.
Wow.
And then when you would find one, you would kind of follow it for a while and try to just get its location pattern.
That's fascinating.
So I spent a lot of days sitting on the front of those boats just listening for sharks.
That's really cool. That's really neat. Okay. So what other internships have you done? This is kind of a cool one.
Yeah, and then one more, the last one I did before the end of my undergraduate was just undergraduate research. And so that's what the other picture of me is me working with my advisor. Yeah, so that's me, and that's my advisor. His name's Dr. Dean Grubbs, and that is a blacktip shark. Wow! And if you look at the pectoral fin on the top there, there's kind of like a little piece of spaghetti.
Oh, here.
Yeah, and that's the tag we just put on that.
Cool.
Yeah, and so we would go. So FSU has a marine lab. It's like an hour away from campus in the middle of nowhere. But it was super scary to drive through at like 4 a.m.
I bet.
But yeah, so I went out there and we would go shark fishing, and then I did a couple of research projects with him.
Cool. So what kind of shark is that again?
That's a blacktip.
Blacktip. Let's take a Google search for blacktip so we can take a look. That tail is kind of interesting. These obviously have very distinct.
So there's a couple of different types. Yeah, there's the blacktip shark, and then there's the Caribbean blacktip. Okay. So the ones with the really distinct tips are not the ones that we were finding in the water.
These are different species.
Yeah, those are different blacktip reef shark.
Okay.
So if you go up to that first one, yeah, that looks more like what we saw. That third picture, you can really see it. Yeah. So the way to tell these guys, on the back of the shark, there's kind of that white stripe you can see. Yeah, right there. And so they have a very clear coloration where it's that cool little white racing stripe on the side. So that's how you can tell that that's a blacktip.
So is this related to the other type of blacktip, or are they completely separate?
I mean, they're in the same order. They're both carcharinids.
Whoa.
Yeah.
So wait now. So my biology was a long time ago. I know kingdom,
phylum, class, order.
How does that work?
And then family, genus, species.
We can pull that up too. So I think people like me are interested in that. Maybe no one else cares about the biological hierarchies, but I think it's kind of neat.
Let's see. What would this be called? Taxonomy. Taxonomic. Yeah. Oh, there's a picture. Yeah. There we go. So domain, kingdom, phylum, class, order, family.
So you're saying they have the same order?
Yeah, they may be in the same family. I'm not 100% sure, but they are at least all in the same order.
So now that I have a biologist here that I can ask questions on, I'm going to ask you some questions just about this, generally speaking. What is a domain? What does that entail? All
right, so these are basically like these nesting dolls, right? So one is biggest, and then you nest inside of them. So the domain is the biggest, and it holds several kingdoms. Okay. And then a kingdom's a little smaller; it'll hold several phylum. And then phylum smaller, and it holds several classes. And then the most specific is the genus and the species.
Okay.
So when you think about an organism, it has two names, right? We are humans, we're Homo sapiens.
Right.
Homo is our genus, and then sapiens is our species.
Okay. So
we name things based on their most specific. But if you were to look at humans and chimpanzees, we're all in the same kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, not family. But we would be in the same kind of bigger groups with them because we're very closely related.
Okay, so our species would be sapien.
Yeah.
Our genus is
Homo.
Homo.
Yeah.
What other animal has the same genus as us?
There's none that are alive.
Okay.
But if you think about Neanderthals, so theirs was Homo neanderthalensis.
What was it again?
Neanderthalensis.
Neanderthalensis. Okay.
Yeah, and there were several different Homo species that we think, well, not think, but we have evidence of.
Okay, let's
Sure.
let's pull that up, and we'll keep this one open because I want to talk a little more. Because I've always been interested in how all this works.
Yeah.
Genus Homo.
So these would be. I would pick a different image.
Okay.
That image search. Yeah. So.
This one here.
Sure. That's the same thing. The one with the skulls is good. Any of those are good. So there's early hominids are like early man. So Homo habilis or
Sorry about that.
Homo erectus.
There we go.
Homo neanderthalensis.
Here's Homo. Here's Homo
sapiens. That's us. So the scale on the side going up and down is millions of years ago. Okay. So that means the top is today, and the bottom would be 5 million years ago. There you go. 6 million years ago. And so this is tracking kind of when we think these specific species live. So if you look, the Homo neanderthalensis, that's top left. That was our most recent common ancestor.
Okay.
And then Homo erectus is another one that we know a lot about. That one's top right. So that one was pretty recent. And so we think that our specific species evolved from common ancestors with some of these other ones.
Okay.
And for some reason, Homo sapiens did better. We have bigger brains, better dexterity. And so we were able to kind of maybe kill off the other ones or at least survive better. And so we're the only Homo species that's left.
Interesting.
Yeah.
When you hear a lot of things, like you watch documentaries and stuff, and you never know unless you're experienced in biology what to believe. But I've heard people theorize that Homo Neanderthals would have interbred with Homo sapiens, and there's probably hybrids.
Yeah, there's
around.
There's evidence that they at least interacted, and so they were in the same place at the same time. I don't think we have any hard evidence of inbreeding between them, but it's definitely a possibility.
Wouldn't that be fascinating?
Yeah.
So their DNA could still be lingering.
Maybe, yeah, at least in some place. Yeah.
We took it, made it our own. That's neat. So Homo erectus would have been a branch off of this.
Yeah, so they would have been less closely related to us than Homo neanderthalensis, but would have been kind of an earlier branch.
Interesting. Yeah. It's always fascinating. Evolution has always been a fascinating topic to me because, first of all, I don't understand it at a very high level because I've never really studied it that much. But it's just so cool that like we have all these skulls and bones. We can look backwards and say, well, this came from that. That's kind of neat.
Yeah, and so I think this evolution is really misunderstood.
Right.
And so it's not humans came from chimps, right? Like that's not a thing.
Sure.
What happens is at some point humans had an ancestor with chimps. You can think of these family trees as like a family tree, right? You have a sister or brother?
Sure.
Sibling,
sister.
Right? So you and your sister have an ancestor, right? Your parents. Your parents didn't become you, right? They had you, and so they became your ancestor. So you two are related through that common ancestor, and that's what these evolutionary trees are really saying, is that humans, Homo sapiens, and Neanderthals had a common ancestor, and so we're related through that kind of relationship.
Right.
It's just on a much larger scale.
Yeah, much larger time scale. Yeah, it's simply amazing in my opinion. Simply amazing. All right, let's go back. This is interesting. So, where are we? Here we go. So, we are the only Homo genus that's around.
Yep.
There is no other. What would the chimpanzees and gorillas and all that be categorized
They
under?
are similar. Let's see if we can pick a different chimpanzee. Let's get. Yeah, go to image. You're gonna get some.
Let's get images.
Yeah. Pan and go ahead to the left there. No, that one. Okay, so you can see Homo sapiens at the top, and then Paniscus is going to be the chimpanzee.
Okay.
So you can see if you follow
this is humans.
Yeah, and then those are going to be the chimpanzees. Then you can go down, you'll see gorilla.
Gorilla.
Yeah.
Capital G lowercase.
Yeah, that's the name for gorilla. So gorilla is their genus and their species.
So are they the only species in the gorilla phylum?
I don't know that this is. I don't know.
That accurate? You don't?
I don't know. They may have only looked at the one.
Cool.
But yeah, you can see how kind of it's branched like a family tree.
Mm-hmm.
And so the shorter the branches, the more closely related, the more recently that branching occurred. And so that when we say we're most closely related to chimpanzees, it just means our ancestor that branching happened more recently. Mm-hmm. So we're more similar. Yeah.
This is crazy. This is crazy interesting. Anyone that thinks biology is not interesting, trying hard enough. This is crazy. Okay, so we're the only species in our genus that's still around. Now, what about family? How does that come about?
Let's type this in. So, human. Yeah, human taxonomy. Hold on. So Wikipedia, whenever you Google an organism on the top, the right over here, go down. So it shows you your kingdom, phylum, class, order.
Oh, nice.
There's a lot of steps in between, like info-order or suborder. So we're in the family Hominidae, which also includes the great apes and gorillas and chimpanzees.
There we go.
Yeah, so Hominidae is going to include the orangutans, the gorillas, the chimps, all of those guys. Gibbons.
Gibbons offshoot.
Yeah. They're not as closely related. You'll see the offshoots way further back.
Right.
But yeah, so we're all in the same family.
So we're here right now.
Yep, that's us. And then Pan is the chimpanzees.
Okay.
And then there's the gorillas, and then the orangutans.
Oh, this is kind of you keep using.
Yeah, you can link. Wikipedia is great.
Okay.
As long as it's not wrong.
Right. Okay. So there must be. Is there like just physical characteristics that are similar?
Yeah, there are. A couple of the physical characteristics of this group are the lack of a tail.
Okay.
Right, because most of these great apes and all of us have lost our tail. Gibbons have a tail, I believe. Or no, they've lost their tail too. And then we have the opposable thumb.
Mm-hmm. And that's part of what, this family?
Yeah, most of us has the opposable thumb. I believe Gibbons have an opposable thumb. Also, the ability to walk upright is more recent. So if you watch an orangutan or a gorilla, right, they usually walk on their knuckles, but they can stand up and actually walk.
Right.
And then in our genus Homo was when we really kind of took that over, and so all of the genus Homo walked upright. Interesting. Yeah, on two legs and stuff. Interesting.
Yeah, you're right. A lot of animals can walk upright. Just most of them.
Yeah, so if you go to the zoo, like if you watch a gorilla, or if they're not just sitting around doing nothing, or if you go watch a video, it's probably better. But they can get up and walk around, but that's not the most comfortable, like natural walking situation for them. Whereas we feel like we're doing a lot of work if we walk around on our hands and our legs, right?
Yeah, no one wants to do that.
Yeah, nobody wants to do that, except for the great apes. They do. Yeah.
So great.
And so it's just little changes. Like each of these groups, offshoots, tends to take a little change and kind of go with it. And it became an advantage for us to be upright because when you're taller than the grass, you can see further.
Oh, right.
Right. We have much bigger range. We kind of go faster. And so we took that advantage and went with it. Whereas some of these other guys, the gorilla, we certainly can't climb trees like a gorilla or an orangutan. Whereas they're more suited to an arboreal or like a forest area.
Interesting. So humans were evolved out of the grassland area.
Yeah, and so that's kind of the key things with evolution is it depends on where you are, right? Being upright bipedal is really great in the grasslands. It's not so great in the forest. Right. Yeah, and so the way we evolve depends on where we live and how our physical traits fit with our environment. Well, Yeah,
That's
and
really
so
incredible.
if we fit well with our environment, we can do well there, right? If you don't have to spend a lot of effort finding food or avoiding predators, you can spend that time mating, and and passing on your genes, and so then your genes are going to become more common.
Right.
But if you have to spend all of your time climbing trees to avoid predators, and you're not good at climbing trees, right? You're going to spend all of your energy avoiding predators or trying to find food, and you don't get to spend a lot of your time mating.
Right.
And so that's really what it's about, is the better suited you are to environment, the more time you can spend having babies. And the more babies are going to have your genes. And then eventually those genes become dominant because they're well suited to that area.
Fascinating. So, well, we'll come back.
Okay.
I have lots of questions, but we'll come back. Let's stay on this image here. I think this is interesting. So, when we talk about a domain, let's just talk about domain.
Okay. So there are 3 domains.
Okay.
You can take all of life, and they only fit into 3 domains.
Okay.
There is archaea, bacteria, and eukarya.
Okay.
And eukarya means a eukaryotic cell. So they have a nucleus, cell organelles, all that kind of thing. Archaea and bacteria are both single-celled bacterial domains.
Okay.
Yeah. So all of the bacteria that you see, like in the hospitals or in your stomach or on this table, like normal day to day, are in the kingdom. Yeah, they're all over. are in the kingdom bacteria, or the domain bacteria. And then archaea is kind of like the extreme bacteria. So like bacteria you would find on the moon or in volcanoes or the bottom of the ocean would be usually classified as archaea bacteria. And then everything else in life is in the domain archaea. So plants, animal, fungus, protists, all of those are in the same domain as us.
It's fascinating. Hold on one second. All right, guys. Sorry about that technical glitch. Hopefully we got it figured out. We're going to pick it up and start talking about archaea.
Yeah.
The domain archaea.
Right. So there's 3 domains. There's eukarya, archaea, and bacteria. And archaea is they're single-celled bacteria, but they're the bacteria that live in like extreme situations. So same thing you would find like on the moon or in a volcano or like on the bottom of the ocean. And then the last one was eukarya.
In a volcano.
Yeah.
In a volcano.
Extreme temperature.
Like close to the lava.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll talk about that in a minute. Okay.
Well, I don't know much more about it.
Well, that's okay. We're just gonna Google some bacteria that live near a volcano because that's just cool.
You can just Google archaea and see where they.
That would be awesome.
But and then eukarya is one domain, and it holds plants and animals and fungus and protists like amoebas and paramecium, and all of that belongs to the same domain.
Okay. And then below that.
Below domain was kingdom.
Yeah, kingdom, that's what it was. How many kingdoms are there?
There are 6 kingdoms.
Okay.
So there's the domain eukarya has 4 kingdoms. And then the bacterial domains, so archaea, and let's see, can you get me back in the search?
Oh, I'm sorry, pardon me. Making sure we're not getting crazy on the old
CPU
recording here. It's actually gone down to 48. That's okay.
So let's find an image. So there's 6 kingdoms. The eukarya has 4 of them, and then the bacteria and the archaea. So click on that left one. That that one.
All right.
So archaea has 1 kingdom, and they're all in the same domain. And then bacteria has 1 kingdom, and they're all in the same domain.
Okay.
And then so like if you look at archaea, some of those say halophile. So those would be salt loving.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they would live in extremely salty environments.
Nice.
Yeah. And then eukarya is kind of what we're used to. And so the bigger kingdoms in there are animalia, which is animals, plantae, which is plants, fungi, and then protista, which is all of the rest of those branches.
Protista.
Yeah.
See that one here?
No, that's because it's made up of all of the other ones.
Oh, I see. Okay, so everybody else
would be in the protist.
So here they're just kind of breaking it a little bit more.
Yeah, they're broken up a little more. The protist is kind of like a catch-all. If it's not an animal, plant, or a fungus, it's protist. Yeah, so there's 6 kingdoms. Don't ask me how many phylums there are because I have no idea.
That's wild.
Yeah.
It's wild. Okay, wow. Okay, where do sharks fall in all this?
So sharks would be animals.
Right.
Animalia.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. They would be phylum Chordata.
Chordata.
Yeah.
You just sound smart saying that one. Chordata.
You're in Chordata too.
I am? Dang, I'm pretty good. I'm with the shark. Oops, wrong.
Oh,
thing.
no. We have to read some journal articles there.
We're gonna get deep. Whoa, hey now. I didn't want to get this deep.
No, go back. Well, let's Google. Yeah, let's go pictures. That's good. So those are different types of sharks and how they're related.
A little too blurry for us, I think.
If we just Google one shark, let's go back to the lemon.
Shark.
Okay, blacktip.
Ooh, lemon shark. That'd be cool too. Either one.
Okay, lemon shark biology. All right, and then go to the Wikipedia.
This one?
Sure. And then it'll have on the right. So phylum Chordata. And then the class there is Chondriichthyes.
Chordata.
So that's anything with a not vertebrae, but a vertebral cord.
What's a vertebral cord?
So the spinal cord.
Oh, okay. Because I was just reading this real quick. I know that makes great TV, but watching me read, but I'm like, a hollow dorsal nerve cord.
Yep.
That's very specific.
Yeah, it's a spinal cord.
Right.
But it doesn't have to persist into adulthood.
Okay.
So things like there are organisms that have a hollow dorsal nerve cord at some point of development, and then maybe it doesn't persist or it doesn't ever become vertebra. Mm-hmm. And so they would still be in this phylum.
So like to classify a new species, you'd have to actually dissect it.
Yeah.
To take a good hard look.
A lot of things, though, if they look the same on the outside, they typically look similar on the inside.
Sure. Right.
Yeah. So you can make a lot of guesses about where something would fit taxonomically based on kind of what it looks like and what its structures are. But we use DNA to do taxonomy now.
Okay.
Because we see a lot of things that have similar structures that have no relation to one another. Like if you think about sharks and dolphins, right? They all have fins. They all kind of have a similar number of fins, but they're nowhere near related because dolphins are mammals. Right. They're not going to be in the Chondriichthyes with the sharks. And we think that they're mammals that somehow got back into the ocean. But if you look and just say, oh, they both have fins, you might think they're more closely related.
So we're gonna stop there because that's interesting. So they came back to water.
Yeah.
So they evolved out of water.
Yeah.
And then said, no, this is no fun. So went back to water.
Let's look at this. Go pull up the.
Here we go. This is fans of my podcast. This is about to get medieval, I think.
Leg. All right. So pull up one of those whale skeletons there.
This one?
Yeah. Probably the second picture there. Yeah, they're circled. So whales and dolphins have a bone in their body that looks like the human femur, tibia, fibula.
Okay.
And it's just really, really reduced because they don't walk anymore. But they have the bone. So that means that they probably had an ancestor who could walk. They had a femur and a tibia and a fibula, just like we do. Because
of those two small, tiny little bones,
right? Yeah, there's 3 little bones right there.
Oh, there's 3?
Yeah. And we call them vestigial because they don't use them for their previous function anymore. And so that's why we think that these guys are mammals that are related to.
So here, we'll blow this one up.
What used to be and they even have the little kneecap bone there.
Okay, so
so we think they're related to an organism that used to live on land, and then for some reason went back into the water.
That's crazy, then.
Right?
That's insane.
Well, so if you think about it, they breathe air.
Right.
They don't have gills. They have lungs.
Right.
They breathe air, and they have legs.
That's incredible. No one ever. That's something that I don't think anyone's ever heard before. I mean, I've never heard it before. I'm sure biology people have talked about it numerous times.
They're more closely related to mammals that have legs.
So then, if what you're saying is true, and I have no reason to doubt you, I'm not saying I doubt you. Then this fin must also have characteristics that are similar to mammals.
Their bone structure in their fin is very similar to our arm.
We need to get a closer look at that. That's wild. You're blowing my mind here today. Told you this podcast would be epic. This is cool. Okay, here we go.
That's not a great picture.
Oh, this one?
No, that's the other one.
Oh, that's kind of cool, though. I'm just going to pull it up because it's fun.
It's just
that's awesome. Your daughter might have made that, you know. Daughter, son,
Son.
Sorry.
Yeah, he can't do that well yet.
Well, give him a minute.
Yeah. So this is comparing the back limb of a salamander and a whale.
Okay.
And a snake.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see that the ones that walk, the salamander, right, the bones they look a little more like a foot. But the whale and the boa constrictor that don't walk, they don't have an actual foot or a leg,
mm-hmm.
but they have kind of a remnant of the bone left over.
Right.
Yeah.
So now you're saying snakes used to walk an awful.
They're related to organisms that used to walk. Yeah.
That's awesome.
We think that they lost their legs.
That's so awesome.
Yeah.
Because they're probably more aquatic. They probably had water close to them.
Well, there's a couple of different organisms. Like there are salamanders, or there are lizards that are legless lizards. They're not snakes.
Yeah, I've heard of them. Yeah.
But they're legless lizards. And so there are different groups of organisms that we've seen be related to organisms with legs and have eventually lost the legs.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can talk. Well, hopefully we'll remember to talk about all these fascinating topics. I've heard of the legless lizard. I've seen one actually. Someone pointed out to me. So that's a legless lizard.
You're like, no, it's a snake, right?
To an untrained eye, it's a snake.
Yeah, it looks
right?
similar. But they have different structural, like their skulls are different, and
mm-hmm.
they have other different things where if you get really nitty gritty, you can see the differences. But,
right.
Yeah.
It's crazy, man. This is insane. I love it. Okay, so whales. So do we know what they evolved into when they came out?
No, we don't know what their common ancestor is, or what kind of mammal they could have
mm-hmm.
or mostly related from, or even why they would have moved back into the water.
Well, well now I'm going to get some kind of silly questions here.
Right.
If you look at like a huge dinosaur, like a brontosaurus,
right.
That's kind of like this. A blue whale is kind of big, like
yeah.
that. You know?
So it could be a gravity issue, right? By being in the water, they're able to have like that bigger body
mm-hmm.
mass. So that could be something. But
so are whales that old? Were they kind of dinosauric, or
I don't know when whales branched off actually.
So this is fascinating because, man, that's kind of cool. I just think that's cool. Obviously, you do too. Wow. Okay. So back to sharks though, because my wife likes sharks and she'll kill me if we don't talk about sharks more. Yes, honey, more sharks. What's the coolest shark ever?
I personally, my favorite.
Wikipedia here. There we go.
Is this guy, the sand tiger shark?
Sand tiger shark.
And I picked this as my favorite shark when I was probably in like 4th grade.
Okay.
So this is 4th grade Amber saying I like this because it has really cool teeth.
It does have cool teeth.
Yeah.
It's smiling.
Yeah.
Ah.
So in Australia they call this the ragged tooth shark.
Okay.
In North America we call this the sand tiger. These are the ones where if you go to basically any aquarium, like if you go to the SeaWorld, mm-hmm. These are the really scary ones that kind of lurk all in the aquariums. They're really common aquarium sharks. One of the people on my committee in graduate school, his name is Dr. Dan Huber. He works at the University of Tampa. And he did studies on these guys because in captivity, you can see they get really bad growths on their back. If you Google sand tiger shark captivity, you can probably find one. You can go to images and see if we can find one. They can get really, they get kind of like a humpback. There's one, that 5th picture to the right.
This one?
No, top row.
Top row.
To the right,
this
that one. Yeah, so that shark has got like this crazy, extreme hump. And so we think that that's a result of being forced into like an unnatural living space in the captivity. Like if the tank's not the right shape or they don't have the right motion pattern to be
mm-hmm.
able to swim. Like a lot of these sharks will swim in circles because they need to keep water over their gills, and they'll only swim in one direction.
Oh, okay.
And so that can cause damage to
mm-hmm.
their actual spine. So one of the things he proposed to fix that was giving them a figure 8 pattern so that they could swim in both circles, right, to help straighten that out.
Did it work?
I don't know.
Nice.
It was kind of a recommendation based on kind of preliminary research, but
wow, that's pretty crazy.
Yeah, so these are my favorite.
They're pretty cool. Look at that. That's kind of neat.
We also have video of these guys in utero.
Really?
Yeah.
That's cool. Okay.
And so National Geographic's done like Shark Week video, right?
See if we can find it.
So
Don't sue us, National Geographic.
tiger, shark, fetus, eat. Oh, I can't type. Fetus. Let's see what happens. So that first one, baby sand tiger sharks devour their siblings. Smithsonian. And they might have a video or something. But so what we found is that these guys are pretty vicious. In the womb, the very first shark to develop eats all of its siblings. And then that's the one that's born.
Wow.
And
survival
sharks,
of the fittest indeed.
Yeah, so sharks have 2 uteruses. And so a pregnant sand tiger shark will have typically 2 pups because each uterus that ever shark develops first will just eat all the rest of them.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what are we looking at here?
That's the beginning of a hatchling in an egg. That's an embryo.
Okay.
Let's see. I don't know if they have more lower down. This is just explaining it. Here, let's go to videos. More shark videos. Shark eats siblings in womb. That second one. There you go.
Playing YouTube video on a
YouTube.
podcast. I like it. Whoa.
Yeah, look at them.
That's crazy. Look at that.
Yeah. And so they eat their siblings.
Wow. We better not play too much more. This is probably a copyrighted video. Better behave ourselves a little bit. Well, that's pretty wild. So they'll eat their own brothers and sisters just because it's there.
Yeah,
and
it's
they
like
have to eat.
free food, right?
Wow. But how many, like a normal shark will have how many pups?
It depends. So sharks are really cool. They have the widest variety of reproductive strategies. Mm-hmm. Some sharks lay eggs. So like a mermaid's purse, you've probably seen those.
I've seen them, yeah.
That's a shark egg.
Is it really?
Yeah. And some eggs have an egg, like the sand tigers have an egg that's in the uterus, which hatches, kind of develops in the uterus, and then they have a live birth. Mm-hmm. And then some sharks have a straight up umbilical cord, and it's similar to an umbilical cord, and they just have a straight up live birth. Mm-hmm. So they go kind of all the gambit from eggs to straight up live birth.
Wow.
And so it depends. Hammerhead sharks are notorious to have the most. If you look, see hammerhead shark pups.
Who doesn't love a good hammerhead shark?
Let's see if we can find the picture, the images. There's a pretty cool picture of someone who caught a hammerhead shark, and it had a whole bunch of babies in it. It's probably
that's not gruesome, but
yeah, but on the left there. Down. I don't see it. But they can have, up to like 20.
20 little baby hammerheads. That's kind of a baby one there.
That's actually an adult. That's a bonnethead shark, and that's an adult one.
Is it?
Yeah.
How big is a starfish then?
It's a big starfish.
It must be. I don't know. But it's also kind of neat if you look at this. This is a hammerhead, and that's not the one everyone thinks of. At least not the one I think of when I think of a
that's
hammerhead.
actually the one that's most common to our area in Florida.
Is that right?
Yeah, so that's called the bonnethead. When
I was doing, I think everyone thinks of. They think more of that
looks like a scalloped hammerhead.
Right.
But there's 8 different species of hammerheads.
Is that right? Mm-hmm. That's pretty cool. Yeah. Well, this is the one that we have in Florida. You think this one here?
That one's pretty common. And so when I was doing research at FSU with Dr. Grubbs, most of the sharks that we caught were this bonnethead shark.
That is cool, man. And hammerheads aggressive?
They can be, but they're the most delicate. So of the sharks that didn't survive being caught and released, it's usually the hammerheads. For some reason, their palate is just not as they're kind of a little weaker than some of the other sharks.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Just how it is.
We don't really know why, but we know that when you catch a hammerhead, it's most likely not going to survive.
So at that point, is it more merciful or better ecologically just to keep it and eat it?
A lot of times what we would do is we would keep it for different samples. So when we were working with the FSU Marine Lab, the head researcher is in contact with research facilities that are working on sharks all around the country. And so he had people he knew in North Carolina or up in the Northeast who wanted liver samples or reproductive samples. And so what we'd do is we would take samples from the entire shark. We took muscle samples, we took reproductive, we took liver, we took bile, and then we would take all of those samples, bag them, and ship them out to the labs that were interested in that specific species or that specific sample. Then they would get something they normally weren't able to get, and so it didn't feel like just killing it for nothing or wasting it. We're trying to take as much out of it, and then of course we would take the jaw.
Oh yeah, that's just plain cool, right? How do you feel about the movie Jaws? Why not bring that up, right?
I'm always my response. Well, so like the sharks was my thing, right? My nickname in high school was Shark Bait. That was when Finding Nemo came out, and, so everybody was like, "Oh, is your favorite movie Jaws?" And I was like, "No, because they killed the shark."
Right. Well, yeah.
It's still fun.
But the shark had a good run there.
It did, but it's not. The part that gets me is right. They explode the shark at the end of the movie, and then they go swim home. On their little paddle boards.
Right.
Like, you're going to get eaten by a different shark.
Right.
Drawn to the blood.
Right, exactly. And those kind of tanks don't blow up like that. So
the cool thing about the movie Jaws is it's a fictional movie based on a real event. So there was a summer of the sharks that happened off of the Carolinas.
Right.
Yeah. And so they had this kind of unprecedented shark attack summer. The actual thought is that the sharks that caused the real event was a bull shark.
Okay.
Because some of the attacks happened up a river. And so the great white kind of got a bad rap for what really should be the reputation of the bull shark.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, let's pull up a bull shark because those are also, I think, extremely interesting, and people probably don't know that they are able to live in salt and fresh water. So even people swimming in a river,
you're not necessarily safe, especially down in like any of the inlets in the Everglades coming in from the Gulf or the Atlantic.
These are bull sharks. They're huge.
Yeah. So one of the characteristics of a bull shark is that its head is just this big, flat, wide head. If you can find one that's like straight on, that's the great white. Yeah, that's not a bull shark.
This one?
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one too. It's got this kind of like truck head that's just really big. But they have adaptations that allow them to live not permanently. Like you couldn't take a bull shark and stick it in a lake and it would live for a while, but it probably wouldn't thrive there. But they can come pretty far up into water and they can live there for 2 to 5 years.
Interesting. That's fascinating stuff.
It all depends on how they regulate salt intake. So in a saltwater environment, fish are losing water to the environment. And so they have adaptations to kind of maintain water. But when you go into a freshwater environment, the opposite happens. And the body of the shark is going to absorb water.
Right.
But the bull shark has adaptations to allow it to kind of get rid of excess water. And so it can survive in the freshwater environment.
No, that's wild.
Right?
That's just so wild.
So when you hear about like sharks in golf courses, right? Like
exactly.
There's a flood and then the shark gets into the water trap and then it's stuck there.
Right.
If it's a bull shark, it's going to stay for a while.
Well, I saw it on a documentary. It was 1913 or something like that. There was people dying in this river up north somewhere. It might have been New Jersey, and they don't know what was causing it. These people were getting killed and mangled, and they're thinking now, looking back, that it's probably a bull shark that found his way up the river.
Yep.
Chasing food or whatever bull sharks chase.
The Discovery Channel did the top 10 most deadly sharks, and the bull shark, I think it gets top 1 or 2.
Yeah, I think there's number 1.
I think it was number 1.
Because I think a bull shark will attack you for no reason.
Yeah, it's not no reason, but they're more fairly aggressive.
Right. No reason that we can see.
Right. It could just be that I'm hungry, and that's a good enough reason for me, right?
Or doesn't know what you are and just took a nibble.
Well, and that's the other thing is shark attacks aren't always food, I'm gonna eat you. Usually it's just kind of a probing attack, but like we touch things with our hands, right? That's how we explore our environment. Well, they don't have hands. What they do is they use their teeth. And so if they want to kind of figure out what that weird humming thing is, or, you've got a scuba tank on, you're making lots of bubbles, they want to figure out what you are, then they're just going to bite you.
Right.
So
And you're not going to like it.
no, you're not going to like it.
So, well, I think a bull shark, they're beautiful sharks.
Oh yeah,
I would be terrified to be in the water with them.
I think it would be so much fun. I think I would probably want to be in a cage for that though.
So, that's what I was going to get to next, because you can't talk about sharks without talking about jaws, and you also can't talk about sharks without talking about great white sharks and cage dive.
My ultimate goal in life was always to free dive with a great white shark.
Free dive without a cage, and it's just a snorkel.
Yeah, that would be amazing. I have free dived with a tiger shark.
Okay.
So one of the days we were in the Bahamas, they do what's called a deep line, where instead of a horizontal long line, it's a vertical long line. And they dropped it 700 feet. So we would go off the shelf and they would drop it. And so it was 700 feet in like crystal clear blue water. And what they pulled up from the depths was this giant 12-foot tiger shark. And so we tied it to a boat, and the boat, if you remember the boats, they were 14 feet. So it's kind of really, the tiger shark was driving the boat. And we all hopped in the water and we took a bunch of pictures with the shark. And so I have a picture of me with this gigantic tiger shark, and its head is just huge. And then eventually, while we were still in the water,
it wasn't angry or perturbed?
It wasn't happy. It wasn't happy. But it chilled out after a while. We all got our pictures with it. And
that's so funny.
So yeah, they had a hook in its mouth that was still being held to the boat. They had the pectoral fins tied up, and somebody on the boat had them. And then they had a knot around the caudal fin, the tail fin, and that was attached to the boat too.
Wow.
But it's really kind of like, if that shark had wanted to get away, it could have easily just snapped all of that and left.
Oh, okay.
It was more of just it's not going to randomly turn on you and bite you kind of thing.
Right. Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah, it was huge. And then eventually at the end...
So you were willing to dive with the shark as long as the shark was pretty much immobile.
But at the end we did release it. So while we were still in the water, one of the divers, and she's like a really experienced free diver, they released the shark. She grabbed its fins and kind of helped swim it down. She went down probably 80, 90 feet, because it's from 700 feet at the bottom of the water. So it's hard to kind of get back all the way down. And so she would help dive it and just went straight down and went right back. Nobody got hindered.
So you would want to dive like that with a great white shark?
I think so. That'd be cool.
A much bigger shark, right?
It can be. Yeah.
All right, we have to do it. We have to pull up a great white picture. Oh, wrong. I'm doing the wrong thing. There we go. Great white shark. So whenever I've noticed in biology, whenever there's the word great, there's usually a less. Like there's a greater black-backed seagull, and there's a lesser black-backed seagull.
There's a similar shark to the great white shark that's called a poor beagle shark, and it's extremely closely related, and it's just it looks like a mini great white.
So it's like a mini, so it could be considered a lesser great white.
Yeah, I think great white shark got its named from all its teeth and size.
Okay.
There's an even greater one, right? Like the megalodon is.
Well, I want to get to that too.
Yeah, that's going to be a close relative of this great white shark. And
megalodons were absolutely much
enormous.
larger.
They were huge. They were the size of like blue whales.
Wow. So here we go. There's a great white shark.
Yeah. So these are, they're a couple feet long. Your average great white, like if you go find one, is probably going to be 12 to 18 feet. Mm-hmm. But like the biggest great white on record is 23. 23. Which is big, but not all of the great whites in the ocean are out there being 23 feet.
Right.
Most of the time they're going to be in the teens.
Quite a mature shark if it's 23 feet.
Yeah. And
how long would what would be the lifespan of a great white shark?
I'm not 100% sure, but it wouldn't be, I don't know. I don't know. But I believe they have a shorter lifespan than a human. So it would probably be like, 20, 30 years maybe?
That's still a pretty good run.
That's still a pretty good run.
Especially in their hostile environments.
They're highly migratory. So they really range all over. The people who can track great whites have tracked them migrating all the way up into Arctic water almost.
What, cold water? That cold? What's
really cool is the great white and a couple of other of the really big species of sharks, they have an adaptation that helps them maintain their body temperature.
Mm-hmm.
So they're not really ectothermic. We
Okay.
actually consider the great white almost warm-blooded.
Interesting.
Yeah, so they have, let's see if we can find it. It's called Reach Mirable. It is.
There's one. This one here?
That one. Wonderful net. Mirable is wonderful. So it's a circulatory adaptation. It's in the blood. And so what it happens is the blood that's going out of the shark towards the water comes in very close contact with the blood that's coming back into.
Oh,
and so it happens
okay.
at like the fins and the gills. And so that means that the blood that touches the cold water, it doesn't ever really transfer that cold back to the shark.
Right.
It gets reabsorbed by the blood that's coming back out. So relatively, the fins are much cooler, and the shark can kind of keep its internal temperature up. So it can maintain a body temperature above the ambient water temperature.
That's incredible. That's
so that's why these great white sharks can go all the way up into.
So just so the viewers can see a little bit, basically what you're saying is that I can't make
so the circulatory system on the left there is kind of coming in close contact with what's on the right. And
so
it's that giant mass of vessels right there.
Here?
Yeah.
And here.
Yeah. And so those would be where the ingoing and the outgoing blood would mix. Not mix, but become very close.
Basically one radiates heat to the other.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So the heat is mixing.
Right. So it's like a radiator.
Yeah, exactly. And so the heat stays inside of the body.
Right.
And
so
it's
a radiator working in reverse.
Exactly.
Like, instead of cooling the radiator cools your car, this radiator warms the shark.
Yeah.
Interesting.
That's really neat.
So the shark's exothermic digestion, I suppose, and how it's this metabolism.
Yep.
This can maintain it more.
Right, and so it doesn't lose all of its metabolic energy to the water. It can keep it.
Right, so it can survive longer in a colder environment, but eventually it'll have to go back to warmer. That's fascinating. Yeah. Fascinating. Back to the great white.
Yeah, there it is.
Because now the viewers are really interested.
Yeah.
Great white sharks. Now, have you ever seen one?
No, I've never seen one in person. I think the coolest shark I've ever seen in person is a longfin mako shark.
A mako shark?
Yeah, this was super neat. And there's two. There's long and short fin. And these are the ones that are really fast. Ooh, there we go. Yeah, look how long that fin is.
Right here.
Yeah.
Wow, that is kind of, here you go.
So that pectoral fin is extremely long.
Huh.
These sharks are very short and stout, and they are extremely fast. We think they can get up to like 60 miles per hour.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's obviously just.
It's a little hard to kind of clock a shark, but.
There's a dude.
Yeah.
He's not afraid of those teeth. Or is this like when you scratch a dog's belly, he just opens his mouth?
No, but sharks actually have a catatonic state. If you take a shark and you flip it upside down so that its belly is up, it'll just go into this kind of resting state.
Interesting.
Yeah, so you can really kind of control a shark if you can get it to flip upside down. So when we were doing trackers like with the Longfin sharks in Bimini, you would actually have to do surgery. We would cut open the shark and put the tracker in and sew it back up. So all you would have to do is flip the shark upside down and it completely stays still.
Wow, why would it do that?
We're not really sure. But it's all of these sharks have this kind of catatonic state. When you flip them upside down, they're just completely relaxed.
So they just surrender.
Yeah.
Interesting. That's wild.
That's really neat. But I was in graduate school and I went on this was right after the oil spill in the Gulf. And there were a whole bunch of labs that are studying, the effects of the oil spill and how much oil is in the shark and the big fish in the water. And so Moat Marine Lab, which is in Sarasota, organized kind of a cruise out there. And so we took kind of one representative from a whole bunch of different labs. We went out in the Gulf for a week and collected tissue samples from all sorts of large pelagic fishes. And we did catch a longfin mako, and we tagged it and released it with a transmitter tag. And it was the first longfin mako that they had tagged.
Wow.
It was really neat.
That is neat.
Yeah.
Do you know what ever happened with it?
I don't, but I mean, I could probably call them up and
I'll
ask
find
them
out.
if they ever
Well,
caught me.
eventually they'll publish it.
So
sure.
yeah. So the transmitters, they whenever the shark comes within a certain area of the water, it bounces off a satellite, and they can get the data.
Oh, it's a satellite tracker.
Yeah.
Oh,
so
nice.
satellite, yeah.
Wow. See, biology is pretty high tech, guys.
It's expensive.
Yes. Research is expensive.
I think that they only had like 5 satellite tags for the whole research project.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, research is expensive. That's fascinating, right? Okay, so back to great white. Everyone likes the great white shark. So I saw, maybe we'll find it here. There was a discovery, or one of the channels had a great white shark. They were feeding on a dead whale.
Yes, that one's where they've seen like the whale carcass, and they get a bunch of great whites, and they come over and they eat it.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's one where the lady gets out and gets on the whale.
Yeah. That's the one I'm thinking of. Yeah. With a GoPro camera. I'm like, it's crazy.
It's crazy.
It's a greasy whale. It's slippery. You're gonna fall in and get eaten by the shark.
The sharks are really opportunists. So if they see a giant dead honking piece of whale, it's like a feeding fest.
Sure. Right. Yeah. Absolutely. So have you ever wanted to do this?
Oh, I would love to do that. That would be so much fun.
I think that would be a hoot. I would definitely do that if I ever had the chance. That's off of Australia and South Africa, right? Most of the time.
Probably, yeah. So South Africa has a lot of the air jaws, the jumping sharks, and you can go out and you can see them, which would be really neat.
The jumping sharks, that would be wild. Oh, this is another cool picture of the cage.
Yeah, look how big that pig is. It's like 2 times as long as the cage. And yeah, so if you think that person's like 5.5 feet tall, maybe.
Yeah.
And that's got to be, 15-foot shark at least.
It's incredible what people will do. It's incredible. I'm like, I would be in here behind the nice iron gate. I don't think I'd be here.
They're probably getting in or out.
You have to be exposed to the elements to get in or out.
Not necessarily. It depends on the boat.
I don't want to swim anywhere in that water with that shark.
That person probably just splashed in and is getting in. But
oh, okay. I don't know. It's just the shark is beautiful, no doubt about it. But then when you look behind it, you see that wall of blue, and you know that goes for miles and miles and miles.
Oh, it just goes so far,
and you can't see anything past maybe 30 feet.
Yeah.
And this shark could probably close 30 feet in a fraction of a second.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So you don't have a chance.
No. Yeah, no. If that thing decided you were food, you're food.
Yeah, exactly.
But they aren't the most aggressive. When they're hungry, sure they'll eat. A lot of the times when you see things like this, they're actively feeding these sharks to get them to come over. Yeah, like they chum for hours to try to get a shark. It's not like every time you hop in a cage, oh my God, there's a great white.
Right.
They're actually really hard to find. But
that would be awesome.
Yeah, and so if it's just kind of chilling and it's not hungry, I would get in the water.
It's just there.
Yeah.
So this is fascinating. Now, of course, we have to talk about the megalodon.
Right.
Because everyone loves a good megalodon.
There's a new movie coming out.
Yeah, I've heard something about that. What about Sharknado? How do you feel about that? I mean, there's 4 episodes of it now?
Oh my God, Sharknado is so ridiculous. But it was kind of fun. So when I finished my master's degree was right when, so there's the scale for megalodon would be that big gray one. Wow. When I finished my master's degree, I went and presented at a conference in Tennessee, and it was the weekend that Sharknado 3 came out. And so this is a sharks and fish and herps conference. So everybody studies reptiles and sharks and fish. And so they had a big graduate student social meetup where we all went into this bar and we streamed the Sharknadoes. And so the channel, right, whatever channel it was streaming Sharknado 1 and 2 and 3. So we all just got drunk watching Sharknado. And it was all shark biologists, so they're all sitting there getting really angry, pointing at the TV that's not anatomically correct. And it was hilarious.
That is funny.
So
here we have ourselves a megalodon to scale drawing.
We've got the sketch. If you look at the top left one, there's the sketches. Top left.
Here?
No, over, other way.
Oh, this one. Okay, sorry.
So the great white's there at the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
That would
that's us right there.
Yeah, and so that's what we think the megalodon was anywhere from the next shark to the bigger shark could have been. You could build a house inside of its jaws. It's just ginormous.
So we're not exactly sure how big it is.
No, we aren't. But we
kind of
found
scale it.
what we really found is teeth.
Right.
And so we used the teeth to kind of give us a guess at how big this shark was, and then we've kind of recreated the jaws. But sharks don't really fossilize well because they're all cartilage.
Mm-hmm.
The only really hard part of the teeth is the teeth. They have a teeny tiny bit of bone in the base of the teeth, and then that enamel on there.
Mm-hmm.
And so fossilized shark teeth are really common, but the rest of the body is all soft tissue and cartilage.
Right. So this will be like a modern shark.
Yeah, those would be modern sharks. They're probably great white. Right? And then the big black fossilized tooth would be the megalodon tooth.
And megalodon tooth, like a specimen like this, I've been told go for quite a bit of money.
Yeah, they're very expensive. Well, if they're real, you can buy plastic ones for.
Oh, sure. Yeah, from China probably.
Yeah, but a real fossilized megalodon is quite expensive.
Especially if they're in this kind of quality, like museum. I guess
that looks like a perfect
quality.
museum quality tooth.
And it's just incredible how big.
You can see the ones. There's another one with it on their hand. How big that is.
How sharp that is.
Yeah.
So is this bone right here?
Most of it's just calcified cartilage.
Okay.
Most of it's not calcified enough to be actual bone, but there's a teeny tiny bit kind of in the base of the tooth.
Okay. Yeah. Interesting. So have you ever gone shark tooth hunting or fossil hunting?
No, not really. I do have a nice shark jaw set from my very first blacktip shark that we caught. That I took this jaw out and then I prepared it and set it up and let it dry and everything.
How do you prepare it?
It's really, really simple. It's not easy. It's simple. Mm-hmm. Basically, you scrape all the flesh off, and then
with
you let
a razor.
Like a scalpel. It took me an entire day, and I sat there and I would scrape it off. And then what you do is you just take it and you stick it in kind of a bucket of peroxide, because the peroxide will make the flesh kind of bubble up. And then you'd come back the next day and you would scrape at it. And so I probably spent a good 8 hours scraping at the jaw over a series of a week or so. And so after eventually you just get happy with the point that you've scraped as much living tissue off as possible and you're down to just the cartilage. And then all you have to do is set it and it will dry in whatever position you set it in.
So is it like?
Yeah, so it's open. I put some pencils in it to kind of hold it up and then it dried in that position. Yeah.
That's wild.
So I have that at home.
So the reason I asked you about shark hunting is because part of the podcast mission is to also advertise things that Broward College does. John Gruber at Tiger Tail Lake.
Yeah.
Have you met John?
We haven't been down there yet, but we're going to.
It's a nice, very nice facility, and they do a camping trip twice a year. I think they do it.
Yeah, I think they do in the fall.
There's one in the fall. There's one in the winter. Because I did the one in January, which was quite cold.
Yeah.
It was brutal. They do a fossil hunting trip on the Peace River, I think it's called.
Okay.
And we were finding shark teeth there. I mean, there's small ones, maybe the biggest one we found was probably an inch.
Yeah.
But there were people there that had setups. They had big mesh screens like this, and they had pumps that were pumping mud up into the thing constantly. So I'm like, okay, they're professional. These guys are pros right here.
Well, they're doing it for the gift stores and stuff.
Sure.
Right. Yeah,
right.
To go
Probably.
collect them and sell them to tourists.
Yeah, there you go. Exactly. But we had fun. All I remember from one of the biggest memories I have from that trip is the night before. I'm looking at the forecast, and it's I was just going to. I didn't have a sleeping bag. I was just going to take a blow-up mattress and some blankets. And the forecast is well, we forecast it to get down to 42. I'm okay, I need a sleeping bag, and so went and bought a sleeping bag the night before. Got there, and they did the dishes and stuff, and they dumped all the water out. They left a little bit of water in this washing basin, and this water had soap in it.
Oh no. And
I woke up the next morning and it's freezing outside. That water's frozen. And there's soap in it. So it's below 32. Yeah. I'm like, this is cold. Wow. This is brutal cold.
It's really cold.
And this is in Florida.
Glad you got your sleeping bag. I get cold sleeping on an air mattress in general because there's no insulation beneath you.
So if you're going to go, I recommend it. It's a good trip. But bring clothes. Lots of them. More than you think you're going to need. And then the other problem was when you're in the sleeping bag and you're nice and toasty warm, you got to go to the bathroom.
Uh-oh.
Well, you got a decision to make. Do you really have to go to the bathroom? Okay, so back to sharks, because sharks are cool. Megalodon teeth. Have you ever? Oh, I'm sure you've seen them.
Yeah, I've been to the Smithsonian in New York and seen the giant. They have a big, jaw. set up. It's like how big megalodon jaw would be. Wow. Yeah, it's pretty cool. You like stand in it, and it's bigger than you.
It's craziness, isn't it?
Yeah.
I find that so wild. Okay, so now part of the podcast is also to learn about you. So now we're going to talk about you a little bit.
Right.
We're just going to ask, like basically, how did you get into biology?
So it all started with fish. So you know how like you grow up and you have a teddy bear? My teddy bear was a stuffed shark.
Okay, that's cool.
I don't know, like I was born loving fish. And so I went to Universal and I saw the Jaws ride and I bought my stuffed shark and it's been I still have it. It's in my bed at home. And we would go to aquariums and zoos and I just thought fish were so cool. Like I was the kid that wanted $5 to feed the stupid goldfish over the bridge because I thought it was really neat. And then when I got to college or high school, I had a knack for math and science and realized that, I could kind of put science and fish and I could be a marine biologist and I could study this. And so I went to college and I was determined to go do shark research. And I did that for a while.
Yeah. It's kind of neat.
Yeah, and then I got into kind of the math and anatomy and the fish jaws, and it was really exciting. And then when you're in graduate school, you teach as a way to kind of pay for the classes. And by the end of graduate school, I was so enamored with teaching that I was like, I love biology, but I want to teach it and not do any more research.
Right.
Yeah. So it kind of was this slow morph from I just want to swim with fishes to I want to study fishes. And then it was like, oh, I want to teach people about this because I think it's really neat. Yeah.
It is very neat.
Yeah.
So when you were like a young girl, just at home, and you see like go fishing or whatever, did you eat fish or were you just like?
No, I still don't really eat fish. I will eat fish. I like fish. I will eat fish if it's caught sustainably.
Okay.
So if it's line caught or it's sustainable, it's like well farmed, in like a farm that's kind of efficient. But I won't eat like regular albacore tuna. I need like pole caught tuna. I basically go buy the fancy expensive fish at the Whole Foods market,
right? Because
they're more they think about it. They're not selling you fish that are overfished and are going to ruin their populations.
Right.
Yeah.
So what's the one fish that you could say right now that no one should eat because it's never ethically caught and you really shouldn't eat that?
Tilapia is not really well farmed.
Okay.
Most tilapia. Salmon's pretty good when they farm salmon. I don't know a ton about it because I don't actually eat most of it.
Sure.
But there's a whole chart, and it kind of changes depending on how populations are. But they have kind of like red zone, yellow zone, and green zone. So like fish in the green zone, their populations aren't decimated. Yellow zone is kind of, if it's farmed, it's probably okay. And then red zone fishes are just, don't eat those because they're not going to bounce back well.
Right.
And there's a lot of fish that we were overfishing. The king mackerel even used to be overfished, and it's kind of, after regulations are put in place, most of them bounce back. Grouper was going to be completely decimated, and after we've put regulations on catching grouper and catch limits and bag limits and size limits, they've bounced back, and now there's plenty of grouper.
Right.
And then, of course, as soon as they're back, the fishermen are like, why can't we catch them again? So that they keep them for a while.
Right. We make a lot of money with tourism here.
Yeah, so we've done a pretty good job with the regulations that we have put in place, being able to help things like cod and haddock and grouper that were overfished. So we used to just think the oceans were full of fish and that it was an unending source of food and it would never run out. But then when you start going out and catching them on a huge commercial scale, you kill them all.
Right.
One of the biggest problem with overfishing is bycatch. So fishermen will go out, like shrimp fishermen go out catching shrimp, but they don't just catch shrimp. They use these giant nets and they catch sea turtles and dolphins and other large fish, and they just kill them and throw them over.
Why would they kill them?
Because they only have so much space on their boat, and they want to fill it with shrimp.
Right.
And not other things.
Well, wouldn't they just throw the
most of it gets killed in the sorting, right? They aren't rushing to go throw a sea turtle back overboard. By the time they get to it, it's usually dead.
Oh, I see. So they don't actually.
Yeah, so they're not like stabbing them, but
okay.
Yeah,
so I thought you meant they were killing them.
If you leave a dolphin on your deck for an hour, it's not going to be alive when you get to it.
No, I understand what
so
you're saying.
So a lot of its bycatch is just it's catch that's not what they intended,
Mhm.
and it dies, or they get thrown back alive and it doesn't survive.
Mhm.
And so a lot of the issue with the big commercial fishing industries is that they're catching other stuff,
Right.
and not necessarily just their target.
Mhm.
So that's why I buy line caught tuna, because if you have one fishing line with one hook and that's what you catch as a tuna, then you didn't kill anything else.
Right.
A lot of your tuna, when you mostly catch tuna, you use this big net. So you'll find a pot of tuna and you'll surround it. But usually tuna aggregate around structures. So you put your net around a structure, you catch it, and you catch other fish. You catch turtles, you catch other stuff.
Right.
And that's why all your tuna says dolphin safe, because you're not allowed to catch dolphins anymore in those nets.
Okay.
So it used to be that they would use dolphins, pods of dolphins, to surround nets around the pods of dolphins, because there would usually be tuna underneath.
Oh, okay.
And so they would catch the tuna. The dolphins can usually just jump out, but it might kill a dolphin or two. And so that was outlawed, and now you can't do that, and so you can't fish dolphins to catch tuna. So now we fish other stuff, and then there's other stuff that gets
interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. I didn't know that. I just thought dolphins got caught in the net. I didn't know they were intentionally surrounding them.
Yeah. So that used to be a strategy, because if you found a pot of dolphins, usually they were surrounded by other fish, and so you would kind of fish them to get to the tuna.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Fascinating, actually. Okay, so you're a big fish lover.
Yep.
And you're a big biology lover.
Yep.
And for some strange reason, you like calculus.
I do.
Sorry, math people. Don't like calculus at all. Sorry. All right, so you're from North Carolina, moved down here. When you were in high school, were you encouraged to study in college, or were you discouraged?
I was definitely encouraged. Both of my parents have a master's level degree, and then I have a grandfather who's got a PhD, who is very, very strongly like, go to school. School's the best. Go be. He's so happy he has a professor in the family.
That's cool.
Yeah. So college was always kind of a when you go to college, not an if you go to college. My parents did the Florida Bright Futures Scholarship, and I did well in high school, so I got a couple of scholarships also. And so, yeah, college was always kind of the next plan.
The next step.
I had never even considered what you would do without college, and now, you can look at other technical programs and other kinds of certification, and it's like, wow, there's really a lot of choices.
Now there is.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, I was going to go to college no matter what. I didn't know what I was going to study, and then I realized fish were animals and animals was biology, and cool, I'll do that.
Right, exactly. So when you were in high school, what kind of clubs were you involved in?
Marching band.
Marching band?
Marching band.
Tell us a lot more about that.
I was a trumpet player.
No way.
Yes.
You still play?
I can. It's
nice.
Not good.
See, now, if I had known that before we started video, we would have had the trumpet here, and we would have had a rendition when the Saints go marching in.
No. Yeah, so I've been a band nerd forever. I started playing the trumpet when I was in 4th grade, and then I played all through middle school, high school, and college.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So you must have been very good at it, though. You're probably being modest.
I was above average. In high school, I thought I was really good at it. And then I went to FSU, which is the top music school in the Southeast. And I realized that I'm an average trumpet player.
Yeah, I feel your pain there. I get what you're saying.
I was the best high school trumpet player. And
that's
then
still pretty good, though.
There were only 5 of us, but
Still, though.
Yeah, one of them was my brother. But
there you go. You got some dueling trumpets,
Yeah, and then I went to college and realized that the people who were playing the trumpet as a music major, who were gonna go teach music, were just they were leagues ahead of me.
That's next level stuff right there.
Yeah, no, but
well, that's cool. Anything else?
I studied a lot. It was mostly band. Band kind of takes up your whole life.
Right, band is a big commitment.
Yeah, we would do 3 practices a week, right? Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or Tuesday, Thursday, and then you would have a football game on Friday, and then competitions on Saturday. So 4 of my 7 days was usually marching band, and that was just high school. College was every day. We would have practice, football games on Friday, after practice. Or Saturday, sorry, football games are Saturday, and then there's no competitions in college. But
so you were on the Florida State University marching band.
Yeah.
So you have photographs of you.
There are.
You did not bring them.
No.
You didn't.
No, I didn't.
Oh, you're looking at the computer, which means they're probably on somewhere online.
They're on my Facebook. Yeah. Yeah.
Not sure.
I can
No, I'm
send
not
you
sure.
one
I'm
later.
not sure we can hide your name.
No, we probably shouldn't put up Facebook with all the pictures of my kid all over the place.
That's probably
But,
not wise.
No.
So, ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned. There will be photographs of Dr. Abels with her marching band gear and the hat too.
Oh yeah, the hat.
Oh, the hat too.
Yeah, the hat. It's called
Excellent.
Shaco.
Excellent.
And with the plumes and everything.
This is getting epic. Okay, so marching band was a big. Especially in college. That's a huge commitment.
Yeah, and so when I was in college, the marching. There's a fraternity for everything in college.
Mm-hmm.
So there were 4 band service fraternities, and so I joined one of those my junior year and was really involved in kind of the service back behind the band, running the band.
Cool.
It's calling me.
Nice. So did you ever get like instead of just marching band? Did you ever? Oh, sorry.
So I just had to make sure it wasn't daycare.
Did you have to? Oh, sure. Did you have to? What's what I want to say? Did you have to? Did you not? Did you have to? Did you get involved in other bands besides marching band? Like did you play, like, jazz
So
music
marching band was in the fall, and then in the spring it was always like a concert band. And
Oh, okay.
So you would play in like a sit down band. I usually just played in the lowest band, the one where you didn't have to audition to get in. At FSU, it's like this. There's this tier of bands, and the music majors all scrabble for spots, and then there's the one where it's like I'm a non-major.
Right.
So I would do that every spring, and we would host a big spring concert.
Nice.
And play, and
that's fun.
Yeah, it was cool. And then there was the basketball pep band. I did that one year, where you go to all the basketball, or you go to about half of the basketball games, men's and women's, and you play for the team.
Right.
Yeah, it was cool.
You do the whole.
Yeah, you do all the movements and the silly stuff and the songs. And you wear the little FSU tracksuit and.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Everybody's got a matching tracksuit. Yeah.
I never did marching band, but I've seen the marching bands.
Yeah.
Students get pretty aggressive at these games too. They get pretty vocal.
Yeah, if you ever really listen to what the marching band members are saying, it's not nice usually.
It's not PG-13.
Nice. It's definitely not PG-13.
Rated R. Maybe even more. So, what would you advise a student if someone were to ask you, say, this month, like, what should I do with my life? Like, where should I go from here?
It depends really on what their goals are, right? So like in biology, there's a lot of different places you can get to, right? You can go into nursing, you can go into the medical field, and then there's research, which is kind of different. It's a different pathway, right? Like if you want to go into medicine, you're going to go do your undergraduate degree and the bachelor's, and then you're going to go apply to medical school. If you're going to go into research, which is kind of the path we all took, you're going into graduate school, which is a little bit different, getting into those. So obviously doing well in your coursework and being, on time and managing your time well and making sure you have a good support group and that kind of thing is a good start. But I would always say, like, whatever you want to do, just start doing it, right? If you want to go be a doctor, go shadow doctors. Right? The more you can kind of learn about your field and get into, even if you're doing like clerical stuff, you're working a front desk and you're sorting files, you're at least there, and you're learning and you're meeting people. And I think that that's one of the key things. I think a lot of people will choose, I want to be this. And it's just because we think that's really cool and we don't actually know anything about it. Like, I want to be a dental hygienist. Like, do you know what a dental hygienist does?
Right.
So like I would go shadow a dental hygienist or like, see if somebody would let you watch or whatever. Like to get into medical school, I'm pretty sure you have to have shadowing hours. So starting doing that sooner, getting more, it puts you kind of ahead of the pack. Gives you a good idea when you get there that I want to do dermatology or I really want to do family practice and then you've met doctors and it's not just, I took biology and so my bio professor's writing me my letter. Like, yeah, that's good. That's great. But, I have this doctor and I've been learning under him and they know me really well and they can recommend you. And that says a lot. They read a lot into those as well. And the same thing for graduate school, right? Like it's just instead of maybe shadowing a doctor, you would want to go do research. And this is really big at like when you transfer up to a university to finish the bachelor's program as a junior or a senior would be getting into a lab and trying to do some research. And it might be just like cleaning glassware or micropipetting all day long. But it gets you in, it gets you to talk to people and to know people and it gets you some experience, and you might get in there and be like, yeah, I really love this. This is what I want to do. Or, man, I really hate this. I'm going to go find something else. And so like you wouldn't know that unless you tried it. And so I think that if you want to do shark research, then when you're an undergraduate, you go find people who will let you get near sharks, right? And so that was kind of what I tried to do. And if you need a job, try and find something that'll pay, right?
Exactly.
Try. But there are internships out there, and especially for like women or minorities, they can find a lot of like internships that'll give you field experience, but also maybe a paycheck. And those are things that look really great on applications. They also get you to know a person, and you can go, hey, my undergraduate research professor can write me a really amazing letter. And if you're lucky, like I was, they know each other.
Right. Exactly.
So when I went to graduate school, he knows the guy I did undergraduate research really well. And so a recommendation from somebody like that goes a long way, especially when they're like, they could literally just call the person up on their phone and be like, so tell me.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Networking. So it's really a lot about how well you do, but then the more you know, like the more people you know, the better you can kind of get in the door.
Right.
So people who want to go to graduate school, find somebody who's doing graduate research, maybe go to a conference about something you're interested in, meet people. Medical research, if you want to go into medical school, maybe go find a conference of people who are doing that. And it's really awkward to like randomly walk up and maybe be like, hi, you don't know me, but I really liked your one paper. But if they're nice, they'll stop and talk to you, and you never know, someday you might get a recommendation or even just an interview out of it.
Well, that's what the social hours.
Yeah, that's what the social hours are for.
Everyone starts having a few adult beverages.
Well, that helps loosen it up a little bit.
Well, that's why they do it.
Yeah, it's really funny how much the bigwig professors can really get down to.
Yeah, that's why they go. They go for the alcohol. I'm convinced they go for the alcohol.
Not to get bothered by undergrads. But,
well, once they had a few, they don't mind.
Yeah.
So it's kind of okay.
But part of it's just kind of like, you can't just be timid and let life happen to you. You have to really strive for the things you want. Make a plan. Right? If your first step is get an AS or an AA, cool. Do that. Do the best you can. Get your grades, and then transfer to, a place that's going to put you along your kind of trajectory. And then the best thing to do is to ask for help. Right? Like if you need to get into graduate school, go find advisors. Go find people who have successfully gotten into graduate school before. Like the professors at BC. Like we all have a master's or a doctoral degree. And they can kind of say, well, maybe this is what you should do, or give you advice, and everybody will give you different advice.
Sure.
Yeah.
And some of it's good, some of it's bad.
Some of it's good and some of it's bad. I had a student ask me, like, okay, so what should I do then? And I was like, well, at that point, you should go talk to somebody else who knows more than I do about that.
Sure.
Yeah.
Great answer, actually. Wow. Of course, we have to talk about being a mom.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of single. Well, you're not single. I know that you're married,
not.
But there's a lot of
luckily.
Single mothers. There's a lot of married women.
Man, it's hard.
Married men with you have families, children,
multiple children, lots of family. Like, being a parent is really difficult, and especially being a parent and working full time and then trying to go back to school. I'm actually starting a program in the fall at UF it's a doctoral in education. Wow. Yeah, so I will be a full-time, full-working, going back to school mom.
So you actually know the game.
I haven't actually started yet.
Wow,
but yeah,
good for you.
I think there's a couple of things, right? The more support you have, the better you're going to be, right? If you've got a mother or a mother-in-law or a husband or somebody who can help, just a close friend, like asking for help is just the biggest thing. Like if you have to get to your exam and there's nobody to watch the baby, reach out, try and ask for help. The last person, ask your professors, right? The more you communicate with me, the more I can kind of help, right? If you just wait until 2 weeks and tell me later, oh, I missed that, like I can't do anything. But if you can kind of come up front and you're on the top of things and you're getting to me before things are due, and maybe I can do something, right? Communication with people is really just the best way to get things done. So having a good support group and then having really good time management is so important, right? Like getting your kid to sleep and then you have 2 hours maybe before you're dog tired to go to bed, making the best of the the short amounts of time is really where it's going to be. Like, yeah, Facebook's great, hanging out, watching TV is great, but if you have a biology test, you just got to use that time to study. And maybe also recognizing when your plate is too full, right? Like, not everybody can do everything all the time. So it's okay if there's a semester where you take part-time classes because work is really stressful and your kid has stopped sleeping or something. I don't know, I think it's better to maybe take an extra year or so and rather not kill yourself than, try and do it all too fast. And then, maybe you don't do as well in the classes as you wanted to because you couldn't focus on them.
Right. I totally agree.
Yeah.
I don't have any children, but I know, for example, time management is a big one.
Yeah, it's huge. And it doesn't even matter, like, parents and single, working, wherever. Like, even if you're fresh out of high school, you've got a full-time job and you're still trying to do this on the side, time management is just the biggest thing. You need to, like, set a schedule.
Right. And what you said about not too much is something that you have to learn that.
Yeah. And you usually learn it by piling way too much on there and then being like,
and then everyone's disappointed and upset.
Yeah, and then you never do anything well, and it would be much better to just kind of fill your plate with what you can do well, and just accept sometimes that it's not everything's for everybody at all the time, right? You don't have to be perfect at everything all of the time, and none of us are.
No, like, for example, I'm great at chemistry. I'm terrible at physics.
Yeah, really?
Yeah, I'm just not very good at it.
I
enjoy it. I find it fascinating, but I don't enjoy it enough to learn the math.
Yeah.
But I enjoy the theory of physics.
Right.
Like, I love it. But I can't play music very well. But I love music.
I'm extremely bad at English and history. Like,
yeah. I love history. I just don't like to read.
It goes in one ear and out the other, and I'm just like, all the time with all the stuff that's happening in the political climate, I'll be sitting there watching the news or reading something online and being like, can you explain to my husband? I'll be like, can you explain, like, the executive branch of our government? Like, I don't remember that. So.
Yeah, you can't keep up with everything, especially nowadays. There's so much to keep up with. Like, there's politics, then there's knowing who's the star of what movie, and then who's writing this book, and who's saying what about who. I'm like, stop. This is too much.
I think I've gone to see 2 movies this year.
For you.
I know, that's a lot. It's good for me.
Were they Star Wars movies?
One of them was.
Okay, well, at least there's a Star Wars movie in there.
Yeah, the other one was Avengers.
Yeah, don't try quoting Star Wars to your students. They won't get it.
No.
I tried numerous times. They don't.
My Hulk jokes usually fall flat, too.
I have this common joke I say all the time. I say it's as though a million molecules cried out at once and suddenly were silent.
Nope.
No, one person in 4 years has gone, and then after that, they're like, they just look at you. Is that on the exam? Yeah, sure, it's on the exam. You got it. Yeah, it's on the exam. You got it.
That's funny.
So, we've been talking for about 2 hours.
Yeah.
So I guess I better give you the last word, and you can close the show.
All right. What do you want me to say?
Just look right in that camera and say, take my classes.
Take my classes.
Because I've been all in with Dr. Betts.
Because I've been all in with Dr. Betts.
Thanks very much for coming on the show. I appreciate it.